Introduction. This room will introduce you to cyber threat intelligence, CTI. Introduction. This room will introduce you to cyber threat intelligence, CTI, and various frameworks used to share intelligence. As security analysts, CTI is vital for investigating and reporting against adversary attacks with organizational stakeholders and external communities. Learning objectives. The basics of CTI and its various classifications. The life cycle followed to deploy and use intelligence during threat investigations. Frameworks and standards used in distributing intelligence. Cyber Threat Intelligence Module. This is the first room in a new Cyber Threat Intelligence module. The module will also contain Threat Intelligence Tools Yara Open CTI MISP. Cyber Threat Intelligence, CTI, can be defined as evidence-based knowledge about adversaries, including their indicators, tactics, motivations, and actionable advice against them. These can be utilized to protect critical assets and inform cybersecurity teams and management business decisions. It would be typical to use the terms data, information, and intelligence interchangeably. However, let us distinguish between them to understand better how CTI comes into play. Data, discrete indicators associated with an adversary such as IP addresses, URLs or hashes. Information, a combination of multiple data points that answer questions such as how many times have employees accessed TryHackMe.com within the month. Intelligence, the correlation of data and information to extract patterns of actions based on contextual analysis. The primary goal of CTI is to understand the relationship between your operational environment and your adversary and how to defend your environment against any attacks. You would seek this goal by developing your cyber threat context by trying to answer the following questions. Who's attacking you? What are their motivations? What are their capabilities? What artifacts and indicators of compromise, IOCs, should you look out for? With these questions, threat intelligence would be gathered from different sources under the following categories: internal, corporate security events such as vulnerability assessments and incident response reports, cyber awareness training reports, system logs and events, community, open web forums, dark web communities for cyber criminals, external threat intel feeds, commercial and open source, online marketplaces. Public sources include government data, publications, social media, financial and industrial assessments. Threat intelligence classifications. Threat intel is geared towards understanding the relationship between your operational environment and your adversary. With this in mind, we can break down threat intel into the following classifications: strategic intel, high-level intel that looks into the organization's threat landscape and maps out the risk areas based on trends, patterns and emerging threats that may impact business decisions. Technical intel, looks into evidence and artifacts of attack used by an adversary. Incident response teams can use this intel to create a baseline attack surface to analyze and develop defense mechanisms. Tactical intel, assesses adversaries' tactics, techniques, and procedures, TTPs. This intel can strengthen security controls and address vulnerabilities through real-time investigations. Operational intel, looks into an adversary's specific motives and intent to perform an attack. Security teams may use this intel to understand the critical assets available in the organization, people, processes and technologies, that may be targeted. IP addresses, hashes and other threat artifacts would be found under which threat intelligence classification? Threat intel is obtained from a data churning process that transforms raw data into contextualized and action-oriented insights geared towards triaging security incidents. The transformational process follows a six-phase cycle. Direction: every threat intel program requires to have objectives and goals defined, involving identifying the following parameters: information assets and business processes that require defending. Potential impact to be experienced on losing the assets or through process interruptions. Sources of data and intel to be used towards protection. Tools and resources that are required to defend the assets. This phase also allows security analysts to pose questions related to investigating incidents. Collection: once objectives have been defined, security analysts will gather the required data to address them. Analysts will do this by using commercial, private and open source resources available. Due to the volume of data analysts usually face, it is recommended to automate this phase to provide time for triaging incidents. Processing: raw logs, vulnerability information, malware and network traffic usually come in different formats and may be disconnected when used to investigate an incident. This phase ensures that the data is extracted, sorted, organized, correlated with appropriate tags and presented visually in a usable and understandable format to the analysts. SIEMs are valuable tools for achieving this and allow quick parsing of data. Analysis: once the information aggregation is complete, security analysts must derive insights. Decisions to be made may involve investigating a potential threat through uncovering indicators and attack patterns, defining an action plan to avert an attack and defend the infrastructure, strengthening security controls or justifying investment for additional resources. Dissemination: different organizational stakeholders will consume the intelligence in varying languages and formats. For example, C-suite members will require a concise report covering trends in adversary activities, financial implications and strategic recommendations. At the same time, analysts will more likely inform the technical team about the threat IOCs, adversary TTPs and tactical action plans. Feedback: the final phase covers the most crucial part, as analysts rely on the responses provided by stakeholders to improve the threat intelligence process and implementation of security controls. Feedback should be regular interaction between teams to keep the life cycle working. At which phase of the CTI life cycle is data converted into usable formats through sorting, organizing, correlation and presentation? At which phase of the CTI life cycle is data converted into usable formats through sorting, organizing, correlation and presentation? During which phase do security analysts get the chance to define the questions to investigate incidents? During which phase do security analysts get the chance to define the questions to investigate incidents? Standards and frameworks provide structures to rationalize the distribution and use of threat intel across industries. They also allow for common terminology, which helps in collaboration and communication. Here, we briefly look at some essential standards and frameworks commonly used. MITRE ATT and CK. The ATT and CK framework is a knowledge base of adversary behavior, focusing on the indicators and tactics. Security analysts can use the information to be thorough while investigating and tracking adversarial behavior. TAXII. The Trusted Automated Exchange of Indicator Information, TAXII, defines protocols for securely exchanging threat intel to have near real-time detection, prevention and mitigation of threats. The protocol supports two sharing models: collection. Threat intel is collected and hosted by a producer upon request by users using a request-response model. Channel. Threat intel is pushed to users from a central server through a publish-subscribe model. STIX. Structured Threat Information Expression, STIX, is a language developed for the specification, capture, characterization and communication of standardized cyber threat information. It provides defined relationships between sets of threat info such as observables, indicators, adversary TTPs, attack campaigns, and more. Cyber Kill Chain. Developed by Lockheed Martin, the Cyber Kill Chain breaks down adversary actions into steps. This breakdown helps analysts and defenders identify which stage-specific activities occurred when investigating an attack. The phases defined are shown in the image below. Over time, the kill chain has been expanded using other frameworks such as ATT and CK and formulated a new unified kill chain. The Diamond Model. The Diamond Model looks at intrusion analysis and tracking attack groups over time. It focuses on 4 key areas, each representing a different point on the diamond. These are: adversary. The focus here is on the threat actor behind an attack and allows analysts to identify the motive behind the attack. Victim. The opposite end of adversary looks at an individual, group or organization affected by an attack. Infrastructure. The adversary's tools, systems, and software to conduct their attack are the main focus. Additionally, the victim's systems would be crucial to providing information about the compromise. Capabilities. The focus here is on the adversary's approach to reaching its goal. This looks at the means of exploitation and the TTPs implemented across the attack timeline. An example of the Diamond Model in play would involve an adversary targeting a victim using phishing attacks to obtain sensitive information and compromise their system, as displayed on the diagram. As a threat intelligence analyst, the model allows you to pivot along its properties to produce a complete picture of an attack and correlate indicators. When an adversary has obtained access to a network and is extracting data, what phase of the kill chain are they on? When an adversary has obtained access to a network and is extracting data, what phase of the kill chain are they on? As part of the dissemination phase of the life cycle, CTI is also distributed to organizations using published threat reports. These reports come from technology and security companies that research emerging and actively used threat vectors. They are valuable for consolidating information presented to all suitable stakeholders. Some notable threat reports come from Mandiant, Recorded Future and AT&T Cybersecurity. All the things we have discussed come together when mapping out an adversary based on threat intel. To better understand this, we will analyze a simplified engagement example. Click on the green View Site button in this task to open the static site lab and navigate through the security monitoring tool on the right panel and fill in the threat details.